As a young kid, I loved football. I loved sports. All my energy and focus was in being the best football player that I could be, and I was living that dream in college, and I was continuing that in the NFL, and the career got cut really, really short. And I had an agent that had a dream to transition a professional athlete into Hollywood. Little did I know that the dream was going to come to a close that fast, and then I had to transition into something, and I wasn't ready for it. Didn't really want it. He brought it up, and he said, "Hey, we're going to Hollywood." And I said, "Nah, I'm not ready for that. I'm not prepared for it. I have no idea what I'm doing." I was going through a state of shock and depression at the time. I'd actually moved from Seattle, Washington, and escaped and was living in Hawaii, just trying to find myself. And then I got a phone call from Michael Douglas, and he said, "Hey, we got a film for you. We really would like you to come back. You got to get on with your life. Football is over. You got to transition to a new phase of your life, and we believe in you, and we want you to be star of this movie." He had to bring me in kicking and screaming. The interesting thing was it evolved around motorcycles, and I had ridden motorcycles when I was a young kid, and I loved the freedom. I mean, you don't really experience life unless you're reckless on a bike. When I was in high school, I had told my father that I was done riding bikes. Actually, my father told me that I was done riding bikes. After I took his motorcycle, the truck is stopping in front of me, and I dart behind the inside of it and hits me, and next thing you know, I'm in an emergency room, and my father's like, "You're risking everything you've worked for to be on a bike." And I promised him at that point in time, I'll never get on another bike until my career is over. So as soon as I got the phone call in Seattle that my career was over, the first thing I did was go to the Harley-Davidson store. I guess for the next month and a half, that was my therapy, and I took that bike with me to Hawaii. I got the script and I read it. It was a story that the original script had a great heart, had a great message. It had some trials and tribulations of the main character, at least for me, and it was taking me through some very dark times, and how I was going to get it and challenge and face my fears, and how was I going to handle that given a family and all the other things that had happened in my past with my father in this script. And it just kind of spoke to me. It still freaked me out because it's a movie script and I'm not an actor. The original title of Stone Cold was Heart of Stone. The beginning of the film was very important because it helped support the Heart of Stone title. Unfortunately, the beginning of the film didn't make the beginning of the film. That was shot and did not make the cut, so we ended up with a different beginning. Heart of Stone was my father, when I was young, was asked to infiltrate this same motorcycle club, and he was found out, and then he was killed. And I had to live through that as a young boy, losing my father. And then I followed my father's footsteps into law enforcement. And then once I became of age to the point where, I was a detective, they came to me and asked me to infiltrate the same motorcycle group and finish what my father couldn't. I came back from Hawaii and I moved into the hotel there in Santa Monica. And I started meeting with the producers and the director, and they had Lance Henriksen. And I sat down with him, and then we went through some rehearsals. It was like out of body kind of thing, because if you're not used to doing something, if you're not trained to do it, you're just trying to figure out how to find traction, and not slip and have confidence. And it took me through the ebbs and flows of fear and anger and angst and anxiety and very little triumphs, and until I got an acting coach and we sat down and he broke down what the moments of acting was really all about, and how to control those moments, the repeated moments of of a scene, and how to stay focused and be in that moment, having conversations, listening, and then responding by finding something that you can connect to. It was a slow ladder climb, but once you start climbing a ladder, each rung that you climb, you get a little bit more confident, and you just have to trust the process. So that's kind of how I got at least comfortable enough to feel like, okay, I belong. I'm not ready, but I belong, in the company of other actors. The thing that I was most concerned about was representing the outlaw biker world in an authentic way. So what we ended up doing was we hired an ex-outlaw biker, a 1%er, which there aren't very many, because if you're in a club and you're in a 1% club, you don't just get to leave the club. You have to ask for permission. There's a little bit that has to go into that. So we hired a guy, and his name was Magic. He legally changed his name to Magic, which is perfect, name for an outlaw biker. And he was Magic. I kind of always teased him. He was about 800 years old. He's like the age of Noah. He's done everything. But he was very good at, this is the way they would do it. Here's how they would react. Here's the words that they would say. Here's the, the terminology that's used. And it made us feel more confident as we were putting the scenes together, so that, unless you're in that world, I don't know if a writer can just capture that, put it on paper, and then give it to actors, and then the actors go, oh yeah, I'll just assimilate this, and I'll come up with my own thing. We didn't want that. We wanted their thing. So being sensitive to that, I think we did a pretty good job of it. The original director, we had Bruce Malmuth, and he had just come off shooting a Steven Seagal movie. We started filming in Alabama. We were in Mississippi at that point in time. We'd moved to another location. And that's when we got word that they had let go of Bruce and they were bringing in another director. Didn't know him. All I knew about him was he had directed a bunch of the A-Team episodes back in the 70s and 80s. And I remember the A-Team. It's a great TV show. And I remember when he came in on the set the first time, we had a meeting, and he goes, look, I just got off the plane. I've read the script. I trust you guys know what's going on with it, so I'm going to let you guys run with the script. We're going to start shooting tomorrow. I've been instructed to blow stuff up and kill people. So tomorrow we're going to blow some shit up, and we're going to kill some people. Craig Baxley never asked me the direction my character was going. He might have some subtle hints on how to, maybe approach a scene, but for the most part, he allowed me just to trust my own path. And with the help of William Forsythe and Lance Henriksen, this is kind of like football. The version of my character really never changed from one director to another. I always went with the premise that we were either going to pick up some of the scenes that were needed to assemble the beginning of the movie, because I really liked the heart of the beginning of the movie. And it gave that character, Joe Huff, purpose, and a reason to leave his family to avenge his father's death. If it wasn't going to be me, it was going to be somebody else, and somebody else's family was going to suffer. But somebody had to make a stand, and I just assumed that we would come back and we would fill in whatever missing pieces we needed, and we would have a beginning. And it wasn't until the film was over did we realize that we were going to do that. We were going to go a completely different direction, and suddenly I was on my own. I was kind of a playboy guy with a lizard. When I did show up on the set and they told me that I was actually working with a lizard, I assumed it was like a lizard, like a pet lizard that we all had as kids, or we caught outside. I've got them running around my house. What I don't have is I don't have a fucking lizard. I have a dragon. And when I showed up, I thought they were messing with me. I'm going, you gotta be kidding me. That creature cannot be my pet or my partner or companion or whatever the hell, because he was in my bed. I guess he was a partner. And then we said, well, we're going to feed him. And I said, well, I don't know what they eat, and we're going to make this thing up. And then once we took him out into the alley, he raised that tail, and the owner, trainer, handler, whatever, he immediately grabbed me. He goes, don't stand behind him. I go, why not? Because when that tail comes up, that sucker's coming out like a fire hydrant. And sure enough, it sprayed. Thank God I was not standing in close proximity of that, because that would have been something I would never forget. Lizard shit. John Stone's motorcycle was actually my motorcycle. That was the motorcycle that I bought, but I want to customize it a little bit and make it, kind of cool. So I took it down to LA and took it over to Bartell's, and we sat down and we did all kinds of crazy stuff to it. But really what I wanted to do was I wanted to splash a little personality, my personality, in the paint job. So I put a burning skull with a Boz cut, which then started this competition, because then Lance Henriksen saw my motorcycle and he wanted his motorcycle to be equally as cool. Lance was just a consummate actor. I mean, he was the professional that I needed, and we have lunch together there in Santa Monica at this fish restaurant. And he's sitting down and he goes, well, you should get a vice. Every actor needs a vice. I go, what kind of vice? Well, when you're on the set, something you can just kind of always lean on when you got to get into a deep, dark scene, and you just need something that just brings out the meat of you. And I said, oh, okay, what do you use? Well, I smoke. Okay, well, I guess I can try that. I mean, it's a biker world now. How hard could it be to smoke? So he passes over a cigarette, and I take a drag off of it, and it's just like fire in my lungs. My throat's blowing up, and I'm just can't do that. So I need to find another vice. But it was knowing that he has the history of being in these moments of chaos and yet can create calmness. I knew that I could trust him.
I don't know, Bubba. Old big boy rides in out of nowhere, throwing his weight around. It smells too sweet. I don't trust him.
William was a wild dude. I think he slept in his outfit.
Would you like me to fuck it up for you?
He never washed his hair. He was in it. He was deep. I think he secretly wanted to be an outlaw biker. That motorcycle chase with ice spanned over 3 states. So we originally started shooting this chase in Alabama, and then we picked up some of it in Biloxi, Mississippi, and then we finalized it in LA. It was harrowing because, in a couple of those scenes, we did use our stunt doubles because of the speed and the fact that we're interacting with live vehicles on a road. The risk just wasn't worth it. It takes one miscalculation, and you're not getting yourself up and just brushing your knees off. You're going home, in either a body bag, or you're going to the emergency room. So they were fast, they were violent. Neither biker lost control at the speed that they were doing, and they had the confines of a tunnel. It was very dangerous. So I was glad that we were able to pull off an authentic, chase scene off with motorcycles. You don't see that very often.
Good morning. It's 6:02, time to rise and shine. Glad you're aboard with us.
Sam was the comedic relief. Sam was great. He brought the levity that was needed, and he also brought the sense of don't lose your humanity in this world that you're in. Joe Huff or John Stone or whoever you think you are, because you do have a life to go back to. So he was kind of that anchor that I needed.
Hey, partner. It's time to turn it on.
He just had a way about him that he kind of brightened up the set anytime he came on, and You know, it wasn't going to be a serious scene. You knew that it was going to be, hey, we're going to have some fun today, a little bit more levity and a little bit more just, you know, reach down inside yourself and find the fun spots. Almost every extra had something to do with motorcycles. And those men would bring their women with them. Like at the rally that we had in Biloxi, Mississippi, or the fight scene that we had in Biloxi, Mississippi, I was just astonished. They looked so authentic that there's no way that they could not have been part of a biker world. So we were very grateful that we had that much support that would come out and help us just portray that world. When we got to, you know, other parts, like when we pulled into Arkansas and we invaded the Capitol there in Arkansas, they didn't see us coming, but they were damn sure glad we left. There were so many things that happened at the Capitol. I was shocked. They let those motorcycles out of the back of that cargo van and they went up those marble stairs. Somebody made a phone call and somebody said, you cannot believe what they're doing to our Capitol. To ride motorcycles, 600-700-pound motorcycles, and not just one or two of them, like a whole pack of them, was absolutely insane. And then they shut us down. They said, nah, you guys aren't doing that. And then it became a pissing match. Well, we actually got permission and we got insurance and we got a permit, we got all of it. So you can't stop us. That helicopter was absolutely insane. I didn't realize that he was going to be hovering literally feet off of the ground right down Main Street, going under power lines. Once that helicopter fell and you saw the fireball go up, and then as it expands, you realize the parking lot was a good, 50 yards from the side of the building. You had lawn, you had sidewalk, you had lawn, then you had shrubs, and then you had the side of the building. All of that burned. Aside from the beginning of the film, which it still breaks my heart that we didn't, I think the film would have been received a lot differently had we been able to keep the beginning of the original film, because I think it really gave the movie heart. Aside from not having that in there, really all you have is an action movie, and there's no purpose other than just to watch the action and the explosions and the killing of people and the blowing up of judges and all the crazy stuff that happens. But I do think you need to have the characters have something worth fighting for, and I think we lost a lot of that. And I'm sure that there's a lot of other things that got cut that you just don't think about 32 years later. I'm just more grateful that we were able to take the original, I think it was 14-week shoot, and we ended up shooting almost 8 months, which is a little bit of overtime, without the production getting shut down, or Michael Douglas and his group with Stonebridge just saying enough's enough, just get something in the can. I think their patience and their tenacity to get what they knew they needed to get to assemble the film put together, I was very grateful that they were able to do that.